Why are you still so cheerful? After drinking the tea that my husband Tom brought home, my mother-in-law started foaming at the mouth and had to be rushed to the hospital. Despite this, Tom didn't seem surprised or worried when I contacted him. Instead, he seemed oddly relieved that it wasn't me who collapsed. It was almost as if he was expecting something else. And then, I came face to face with a shocking truth. What was our marriage all about? In disbelief, my mind was in chaos. Tears naturally started to flow, but I clenched my fists and decided to seek revenge. I'm Maria. 58 years old. Since when did everything start to go wrong? I realized I was constantly thinking about this, exhausted both mentally and physically. In the early days of our marriage, Tom was so kind. But gradually, he stopped caring for me or giving me presents. Even when I prepared gifts for his birthday or made special dinners for our anniversary, he often stood me up. After more than 20 years of marriage, I guess we had become like air to each other, in both good and bad ways. Maybe it's pointless to expect anything from Tom anymore. I tried to convince myself, but deep down, I felt neglected and frustrated. After our daughter got married and moved out 5 years ago, Tom even stopped wishing me a happy birthday. No matter how old I got, I felt a certain loneliness in our relationship. Before I knew it, Tom, who used to work for a company as a salesman, was nearing retirement at 59. He used to travel a lot for work, but now, he had no prospects of further advancement, and we were going to spend more time together. Hey, Tom. Do you want to go to a nearby cafe this weekend? I've finally got a break from work and I want to change things up. I hadn't seen much of him recently due to my job at a food company with lots of overtime, but it seemed like we could finally spend some time together. However, Tom just frowned and didn't even look up from his newspaper. Why do we have to do that? Can't I just have some freedom on my day off? No, we haven't talked much lately, right? I thought maybe if we went somewhere different. Start talking more naturally. I was trying to express my loneliness, albeit awkwardly. What are you talking about? Tom slammed his newspaper on the table, clearly in a bad mood. We're not newlyweds anymore. But, my colleague Henry's wife, Rachel, doesn't go out with him either. They handle everything they need through text messages. I knew Rachel, she was as old as us. Married around the same time, and was a kind, beautiful woman, more feminine than I ever was. Tom often compared me to her, urging me to be more considerate like she was. Rachel doesn't talk much with her husband either, so I guess it's the same for me. I couldn't shake off my loneliness, but I began to accept Tom's viewpoint. From then on, I tried to think that maybe this was just how marriages were and tried not to dwell on it too much. That was 2 months before my birthday. And time passed, bringing my 58th birthday. I managed to finish work early that day, getting home before 5 p.m. I guess I'll be spending it alone again this year. Tom had been busy with work, often returning after midnight and going straight to bed. So I hadn't brought up wanting to celebrate my birthday together. As I was about to celebrate alone with a cake I bought myself, Tom unexpectedly came home with a department store bag. Maria. Here, this is for you. He handed me a box. Inside was a necklace from a high-end brand, something I had never worn before. Today's your birthday, right? Do you like it? I'm so happy. Thank you. I replied with a big smile, and Tom awkwardly scratched his head. And he also brought home some high-end tea and sweets that he said he had bought at a fair. I've always been grateful to you, Maria, but I couldn't express it properly. This is how I feel. Tom. I had given up on having conversations with him, resigning ourselves to being just like air to each other. But this surprise made me realize Tom's love for me, warming my heart and soul. Before I knew it, tears naturally started flowing from my eyes. I'm so happy. Try it on. After wiping my tears, I put on the necklace and checked my look in the mirror. Tom watched me with a smile. It was a moment when I truly felt grateful to be his wife. Suddenly, Tom took out a suitcase from the closet. Sorry to do this on such a day, but I've gotta go on a business trip for a week. He said he had to get ready and leave immediately. While packing, he kept apologizing. Sorry, we can't celebrate properly. And he kept apologizing over and over again. But it's work, so it can't be helped. I was disappointed, but I smiled and saw him off. Hey, don't worry about me and finish up that tea. The salesperson said it's made of special leaves that should be consumed within half a day of opening. Sorry. I opened the package at the store to check the smell. Gotta go now. Leaving those words behind, he rushed out the door. Left alone, I savored Tom's kindness. But at that time, I had no idea that a tragedy was about to unfold. About 30 minutes after Tom left, I took out a teapot to steep the tea leaves when the doorbell rang. I was in the neighborhood for an errand and thought I'd drop by. My 84-year-old mother-in-law, who often visited our house unexpectedly, was at the door. We had a good relationship and I always welcomed her visits. This fancy tea is too good to drink alone, I'll share it with her. I prepared a teacup for her and laid out some snacks. Just then, a courier delivery arrived. Seeing that it was a frozen item, I told her to start without me and began unpacking it. But I struggled to fit it in the crowded freezer. Still, I somehow managed to rearrange the freezer, and then I went to sit at the table to drink some tea myself. Finally, after rearranging, I was about to join her for tea when I saw something unimaginable. Oh! Hang in there, please! She had suddenly started foaming at the mouth and collapsed. She quickly became limp and unresponsive, her face turning pale and her eyes closing. I'm calling an ambulance right now. 15 minutes later, the paramedics arrived and she was rushed to the nearby hospital. I couldn't reach Tom and didn't know what to do, so I just prayed. Later, thanks to the doctors' and nurses' efforts, she was saved. It seemed she might have eaten or drunk something harmful. But when she regained consciousness, she couldn't think of anything that could have caused it. Fortunately, she was doing well and could be discharged soon, but at her age of 84, she was admitted overnight just to be safe. Hello, Tom? I finally got through. It's been hectic here. Something in the food caused your mom to be hospitalized. I called his cell while handling the hospital paperwork, expecting him to be worried. But what he said was totally unexpected. Huh? Why are you okay? What? Confused, I asked him what he meant. What do you mean? Oh, no. I mean, if you're okay, Maria, that's good. But, please take care of Mom. He hurriedly made excuses and hung up. It almost sounded like he wished I had been the one to collapse. Despite hoping it was just a misunderstanding, I headed to her hospital room. But in the midst of casual conversation with her, a shocking truth was revealed. What does this mean? Trying to make sense of everything, I began to suspect Tom. And like unraveling tangled threads, I decided to verify my thoughts one by one. That's it. It's over. Realizing Tom's betrayal, I braced myself for the end of our marriage. But just filing for divorce wasn't enough for me. I was determined to make Tom experience the same agony as my mother-in-law. I'll definitely make him suffer. I resolved firmly. A week later, Tom returned from his business trip. Welcome back. You must be tired. Here, have a drink and relax. I received his bag at the entrance and took care of him diligently. When I offered him a warm cup, he started sipping it. How's the taste? Huh? It tastes like the usual tea. I frowned and peered at his face, which looked perfectly normal. That's strange, that was the fancy tea leaves you gave me for my birthday. As soon as he heard my words, Tom spit out the tea he was drinking and splashed it on the floor. What have you done to me? He rushed to the kitchen, gulping down water and trying to vomit by sticking his fingers down his throat, clearly panicking. I'm done for. He was sweating, looking sickly and pale. Call an ambulance. He asked for help, but I just watched silently. Then he tried to call himself. I quickly snatched his phone away. "What are you doing?" "Relax. That was just ordinary tea I bought earlier." I showed him the tea package, and he collapsed weakly on the floor. "So you panicked because you knew something fishy was in the tea leaves. What are you suddenly talking about? Basically, you, Tom, are the one who tampered with it, right?" As I leaned in, he averted his eyes, which were clearly swimming in confusion. "I don't know anything about that." "Huh? Don't play dumb." Because of that, mother-in-law collapsed frothing at the mouth. As I raised my voice, the door to the next room opened. "Tom! What are you doing?" It was my mother-in-law, waiting in the next room. Caught off guard by her sudden appearance, Tom became even more suspicious. "Mom, it's a misunderstanding. Besides, how can you be so sure something was in the tea? Maybe it was something else she ate that day." "Sorry to disappoint you. That day, I hadn't eaten or drunk anything." "Huh?" That day, she had been at a medical checkup, which took longer than expected. And she hadn't eaten anything. She also only sipped a little of the tea because she had a sensitive tongue, which might have saved her from worse harm, the doctor had revealed. "This proves you tampered with the tea." "But there's no evidence I did it." Frustrated by her son's attempts to escape blame, my mother-in-law sighed heavily. "I saw you, Tom, coming out of a flower shop with a big brand logo bag." This was something she told me in her hospital room. She had tried to call out to him that day, but he was so absorbed in his phone call that he just hopped into a taxi and left. She found his behavior odd and was about to tell me when she collapsed after drinking the tea. Tom's face turned even paler as she pointed this out, becoming increasingly agitated. I glared at him. "I had a hunch and called your company. They said you were on paid leave, not a business trip." Such a blatant lie. By this time, I had thoroughly investigated everything about Tom. I found several women's brand items in his card usage history that he had never given me. But what caught my eye most was his computer browsing history. I had printed out a list of all that information. Look at this. A whole list of shady drug purchases and visits to dark websites. I confronted him with his internet history and credit card statements. Plus, this store matches the payment destination on your card. At this point, Tom was white as a ghost and speechless. But that wasn't all I had prepared. "You also seem to have been obsessed with love fortune-telling pages." While searching his room, I had found a printout of a fortune-telling result in the trash can. Crumpled up as if he was displeased with the outcome. But this became the final straw that cornered my husband. "Let's see here. It says compatibility fortune-telling for Tom and Rachel." "What?" "This is about Rachel, right?" Rachel was the woman Tom had once mentioned when he was trying to convince me by saying, "Even my colleague doesn't go anywhere with her husband." I asked the florist, and they told me that Tom ordered a bouquet with a message card saying "To my beloved Rachel." Actually, I know the owner of the flower shop, and Tom, unaware of this, had shopped there. This led me to realize that Tom and Rachel had some kind of relationship. I thought maybe they took time off together and went on a trip. "So, I checked with your company, and she had taken leave for the same period as you." "You went through all that?" "Running off on a romantic trip, pretending it was a business trip. How shameful." Furthermore, I stormed into her house, using the address written on the New Year's card. Her husband, Henry, suspected his wife's infidelity due to subtle changes like her makeup getting heavier and coming home late. So, Henry recently put a GPS tracker on her phone. That's how I found out where you two were. Henry had installed this feature on his wife's phone but had been too afraid to check for infidelity. However, inspired by my determination to confront Tom's betrayal, he finally made up his mind, and we decided to work together. His retired husband caught you two in the act on camera. I scattered numerous photos of their affair on the table. They showed the two hugging and even entering a hotel. Planning to send me to the other world, collect alimony and retirement funds, and start a new life with your mistress, perhaps? Shut up. That's exactly right. Tom reluctantly began to confess their affair, which started 10 years ago. Around the same time he stopped giving me birthday presents. You're really the worst. Be grateful I even put up with an old hag like you. Instead of apologizing, Tom snapped back and arrogantly sprawled on the sofa, crossing his legs. But then, my mother-in-law suddenly slapped him on the back of his head. I'm ashamed to have a son like you, Tom. I'm disowning you. But Mom, I'm your only son. Please reconsider. No discussion. I don't even want to see your face. I'm leaving all my inheritance to Maria, your wife. You're kidding. Rejected by his own mother. He looked like he was about to cry. Maria, I'm sorry. Can we start over? No way. You've been betraying me for 10 years. I firmly refused any sympathy for Tom. We're getting a divorce, and I'll be asking for a lot in alimony. I confessed and apologized, isn't that enough? As if. Henry is even planning to storm into your company. What? Tom started sweating profusely. Hey! If you do that, it'll make things awkward at work, and I won't get my full retirement benefits. Call him off, now! I shook my head silently, and Tom's face fell into despair. I decided to push him even further. By the way, I did a fortune-telling for you on the internet, Tom. It said, biggest crisis of your life. It's surprisingly accurate. Maybe I should try it too. Please, I'm sorry, forgive me. Tom finally apologized repeatedly. I was almost sent to the other world by you. So, I'm saying I'm sorry for that. Including this incident, I'll consult a lawyer and take appropriate action. I'm even considering filing a police report, so be prepared. What? Finally realizing that no amount of pleading would change my mind, Tom, tears and snot running down his face, broke down crying right there. My mother-in-law and I looked down on him with cold eyes. After that, the divorce with Tom was finalized. Out of respect for my mother-in-law, I decided not to file a police report. I received $30,000 in alimony from my ex-husband. Henry, Rachel's husband, true to his word, stormed into the company. The affair between Tom and Rachel became widely known, and unable to bear it, they both soon resigned. They hadn't secured new jobs yet, and struggling with the alimony demanded by Henry, both were in financial trouble. The incident caused a rift between Tom and Rachel, leading to their breakup, and now they are living lonely lives. As for me, I was offered an extension of employment by the HR department, securing my ability to work even after retirement. The birth of my daughter's child and the family visits on weekends have become my greatest joy.